Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna make a motion to excuse Ms. French because she's out of town.
And then Mr. Broker will be late.
Oh, okay.
And Ms. Stone,
And
right
Helen,
there she is.
yeah, and she's
Yeah, she's sitting in our office.
Still bigger than her.
She's not here. I just, I'll let you know.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead and start the meeting.
And then you raise your hand, I'll punch you.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you here for our Chatham Area Transit Authority meeting for April the 21st. Now, I'd like to have the call to order.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Chairman Lakakis,
Here.
Dr. Thomas,
Here.
Mr. Broker,
Mr. Broker will be late.
thank you, Mr. Dawson,
Here.
Mr. French,
Go ahead, because I'm going to make a motion to excuse him in just a moment.
yes, sir, thank you, Mr. Holmes,
Here.
Mr. Maynard,
Here.
Ms. Osborne,
Present.
Ms. Dawn.
Present.
I need someone to make a motion to excuse Howard. He happens to be out of town today.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second to excuse Howard French from the board meeting today. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of March the 24th. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? If not, let's all say aye for those approvals.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. Cat's first reading for fiscal year 2015-2016 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Tier will present the information on the budget. You have a hard copy in your file. Excuse me. You have a hard copy in your book, and we also put an additional copy of the proposed budget on the table in front of you. And Terry will present the information, and at that point, after she presents it, Mr. Chairman, we'll need to open the floor for a public hearing. Terry?
Good morning. First slide is a summary of the timeline. Of course, we're now right in the middle of the spring. We're having our first reading of the proposed budget. The second reading will be at our May meeting. We'll have a public hearing after both of the readings, and there will be an evening public hearing, which is scheduled for our normal meeting of the public meeting in the evening in May. And the other part of the timeline is the county commissions setting the millage rate at their June 26, 2015 meeting. As far as the proposed budget priorities that we discussed at our initial workshop, we are looking at modifying our fare structure. We hope to move more of our fare revenue from our passenger fares to our agency revenue category. Additionally, we're looking at a fare reduction on our pass program. Passes and transfers will be available at a reduced fare. Yes, ma'am?
What does moving the fare structure to the agency revenue mean?
As far as taking individual fares from individual customers. We're hoping to partner with more businesses in order to offer employer pass programs.
That would be good.
Sounds great. That's good.
And we'll talk about it some more prior to just so, I know we talked about it in our finance committee meeting, but we can talk about it a little more. And when you look at the budget details, one of the areas you'll see is a $400,000 growth in the area of agency revenue, which is an area we started to focus on about 3 or 4 years ago.
Before we start the public hearing, this is the Chatham Area Transit public hearing statement that is required. Ladies and...
You can do that after she finishes.
Oh, go ahead. I thought Terry was finished.
That was a very short,
Yeah, go ahead,
very
Terry.
short summary. The second priority that we discussed was centered around our Teleride or our paratransit operations. We are working on rebranding that service and also enhancing the technology. We're also in the beginnings of our certification and recertification process, and we're looking to discuss fare increases from $1.80 to $2 for just the paratransit. Also a priority was for continued service on the weekends and on holidays. Additional priorities continue to be our long-term funding and physical stability. With that, we are looking to continue to pay down our line of credit and also to continue to reduce the long-term note and completely eliminate it in the next 4 years. We have also planned for the beginning of reserves for contingencies, capital, and also restricted reserves for workers' comp and accident reserve. The reserve for contingency will be our operating reserve, and as that grows, we will be able to reduce the line of credit need and hopefully eliminate that within the next 12 to 18 months. As far as the actual proposed budget that we're looking at today, it reflects revenues and expenditures totaling $21,154,000. This represents an 8% increase over last year's budgeted numbers, but is fairly close to where we expect to end in June of this year. It assumes a 1% increase in the tax digest, and we're proposing that we ask for no millage increase. The revenues, our passenger fares have remained consistent with prior year, and as Dr. Reese says, we hope to move more of that fare revenue into the agency category. Our paratransit revenue, you'll see, is up $600,000, but that's basically due to 2 things. Half of that is for budgeting for fuel at the beginning as opposed to adding it at the end in hopes of streamlining our close process at year end. So we'll be budgeting for that and booking that month by month. And also we expect a 10 to 12% demand increase, and that makes up the other difference. So with fuel increase, you'll see that the revenues and the expenditures were bumped up, so it's really a net effect. And we've also met with the county and compared their budgeting, and we all have the same numbers, so it'll be similar.
I know we discussed the now qualifying for paratransit. Obviously, that's going to reflect some savings for people that do not need to be using it that are currently using it.
It may, but we're still facing, I think the bigger issue is restricting the growth. The bigger issue is we started off, we were talking about other communities that were having 10, 12, 15% increases a year, and our hope is to, because the growth is going to come as baby boomers age, and if we can restrict the growth, then that's when we will see it somewhat long term. But
I mean, that's what was a real hardship in the budget.
Right.
And now that we are asking people to qualify for this service, I'm hoping that some savings will be recognized.
Well, we have seen, I guess, a couple months in thus far on the new people who signed up for it. About a third of those have been rejected, which is would cut the growth of that nearly by a third in and of itself.
Well, if they don't qualify, they shouldn't be using it.
I have a comment with the aging population that we have, we all know that. how do you expect to cap the growth? I would suspect the demand would be increased.
Well, I don't know if it's a cap on the growth.
That's about numbers.
You know, in football, you play an outstanding running back, and you say you can't stop him. You want to contain him. We want to contain the growth to simply the people who qualify for it.
Yeah.
Just because you're elderly by nature, that doesn't mean you're automatically qualified.
Of course.
If you can still have access to the fixed route services, then that's the avenue that that we would hope to use.
Well, the thing about paratransit too is we want to be able to provide this for those people that really need it.
Yes.
But looking at this, we have a situation where some of those people do not qualify for that, and that's why the staff has been working on that to see about, talking to those people, see if they meet the qualifications. If not, then we just tell them, we have the other service, regular service for you, but and we want to certainly continue with the paratransit because we have a number of people that have disabilities, especially in our community and other situations, that they really need this transportation, the paratransit.
Question, to follow up on that, we do have a means of helping people to understand how they do qualify.
Yes, ma'am.
For the services.
Yes, ma'am.
Because in any given situation, you always have somebody that's trying to sneak through the cracks. Just to prevent that kind of thing, to make sure that everybody, who needs the services, they are aware of it, and those who are seeking to use the service and may not qualify, that they also understand why they may or may not qualify for the services, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, ma'am. We have that process in place, and that's the certification program that the board had approved, and we went through and took part in the certification process, and then there's also an appeal mechanism set up, and I think we have one appeal of a decision so far.
Right, because when people understand, when you communicate to them effectively as to, what is what, then you have less of a problem in dealing with people. Because some people will always try to go around whatever, but.
And Chad, in this situation now, of course, the governor signed that transportation bill, and now it's sort of been a lot of discussions to see how it's going to be distributed to all the transit systems in the state.
Yes.
Now, if we get that, of course, we're the second largest transportation in the state of Georgia. So that in itself, you've been working on to make sure that people understand that so that we can get more of a share of that money as opposed to, just going by and just take a number and distribute it on the number of counties that have transit systems.
Yes, sir. We're working on that, and we'll be working on that later on this week. Mike and I will be in Atlanta at the latter part of this week, continue to work on that process. And it's important to note, one of the things that's excluded from this budget is any mention of state funding. We want to take a conservative approach to how we did the budget, and until we have some assurance on how those funds will be distributed, we took the approach to exclude that from this budget. And what would happen is, once that's been decided, we come back to the board to file for an amended budget.
Okay. All right then. Anything else, Terry?
Yes. So the last revenue category highlight is our preventive maintenance revenue. This is our grant funding, our assistance from the FTA, and there's a slight increase, a 4% increase over last year, and it's mainly related to our continuing trend of increased maintenance cost. So maintenance cost is eligible for assistance, and as the revenue goes up, of course, you'll see the same increase in maintenance cost. The expenditure highlights, as we were discussing, the maintenance costs continue to increase as our fleet ages. While we're working on our bus rehabilitation project, you'll still see an increase in budget amounts year over year. This year, the increase is 20%, and it's related to not only the materials and supplies and parts, but also to the labor cost involved in continuing to maintain the older buses. Also, there's a net increase in our insurance expense over prior year. We've had some good numbers come in, and Seacrest is here to talk about that, but health insurance is still projected to increase 5%, and also the life and disability insurances will increase this year. We've also added a budgetary item for our claims reserve expense. This is another item that's usually analyzed and booked at year end, and our hope is that when we monitor it month by month and include it in the budget, the year-end close and the audit process will be streamlined. So there are minor adjustments between categories, and the expected final review and revision will be completed once the board has a chance and the public has a chance to review our numbers and give us input. So while this is our proposed and recommended budget, we will anticipate and make any changes before the final reading. We also have one more expenditure. Negotiation of our labor agreement will occur in June, and we'll have a new fixed labor agreement in place beginning in July 1. So those numbers won't be final until those negotiations are complete. And I can take any questions on the recommended budget, or I can turn it back over to Chairman Lakatos for the public hearing.
Any questions? Any questions? Go ahead, Wayne.
I just had one question about the insurance. What percentage?
5% on the health insurance is what the estimates are right now. We'll know more the closer we get to renewal date, which is July.
It's good compared to.
It is good compared to prior years.
Yeah.
At first, we were looking at 10 to 15% increases, but just recently they were able to reduce that to anticipated 5% estimate.
And Wayne, we'll have a presentation from some insurance people also as we move down on the agenda. Any other questions? Bill?
Yeah, and I apologize for being late.
No, that's okay.
Thank you. Terry, I wanted to ask you, I was looking at the figure on passenger fares and special district taxes making up 57% of the budget. How does that break down, those numbers? This was in our board book.
As far as the special district
Just between
tax,
the two, like what part of that is fares and what part of it is taxes, or do you know?
taxes are about $9 million and the fares are about $3 million.
Okay.
So it's 3 to 1.
Okay.
Taxes to fares.
Okay. Thank you.
And one of the things that we look at also in comparison to our peers, we're looking at an overall budget of $21 million, of which 9 million of that 21 comes from local taxes.
Right.
So then subsequently the remaining amount comes from other sources of revenue.
Right.
Which, if you look at it compared to some of our other peers in the state, it's a pretty good number.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I was just curious about the breakdown in those two.
There's talk in Washington too about, putting more money into transit, which is really a good thing. So hopefully, they can overcome some of the situations that they have, because of course, since the state is not providing any funding for us, that places us in a compromising position, because we have to look to other avenues to get that funding in, and but hopefully that will come about.
I mean, have the state ever given us any reasons why they are not assisting us? And I know they do quite a bit in the Atlanta area.
Well, one of the things a couple of the legislators have stated is that they've got a tight budget, and since the federal government is sending money in, They felt that, one of them said, well, that ought to be sufficient. Well, it isn't sufficient, but that's just a statement that was made in Atlanta.
Well, perhaps, Mr. Chairman, then we need to be, proactive in terms of continuing to work with our representatives at the state level as well at the federal level. Because, if we continue to stay quiet and do not show any interest at all as to the needs of this particular organization, then we're always going to be left out in the loop. So my thing is that we keep it in the forefront and just continue to move forward as best we can.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that, and I think that's a very, very apt comment. Basically, our state government has made a policy decision.
Yes.
That funding public transportation, at least in most of the state outside of Atlanta and the northern parts of the state, just is not a priority.
Exactly.
And that's unfortunate. Now, I will say that, with this last package that I think you may have alluded to early, there is going to be a substantial amount of money that's going to be distributed throughout the state, and I'm certainly glad to see, as we indicated at our last meeting, that CAT has taken a real leadership in suggesting a distribution formula that would be really favorable to many of the systems outside of the Atlanta area.
Exactly, that's what I was alluding to.
Do you have any more comments on that? Helen?
Thank you. I know that historically, way back when, the state did contribute to us, and the lack of those funds has caused us to lose matching grant monies without the state match. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So where are we, and I guess, Mike, you would be the person to answer the question of where the division of that lump sum of money is at this point. I know that you were very good in drawing out a strategic formula to make sure that everybody in the state receives some funding, not just what our interests were. Where does that stand at this point?
As you will recall, we started out with $100 million in bond funds that were contained in both budgets. By the time the budget was passed and is now before the governor, there's $75 million of bond money that's available for transit statewide. That money originally was placed in the Department of Transportation budget, but because of some limitations in how they could administer the funds, the decision was made to move the money to the State Roads and Tollways Authority, who have much more flexibility in terms of managing those funds. That money is there. The governor has not signed the budget yet. We're anticipating that he will sign. We're not seeing any problems or concerns there. So part of the process that we have moving forward is to work with CERTA and the Greta folks as well, who are somewhat merged together with CERTA, in trying to determine what the protocol is going to be for either distributing these funds or allocating these funds. There'll be bond money that will be restricted to capital type projects. Most likely what will happen is items will be purchased in the name of CERTA, and then they will be leased back or leased to a transit authority through a multi-year lease for $1 or so. So that's how we see that happening. Two potentials of moving forward. One would be purely a competitive grant, where everybody would put in grant applications to determine how the money is going to flow. The other would be a allocated pot, which basically is the distribution formula that we have recommended, whereby you would have availability to draw down those funds. You still would have to go through a grants application process, propose the projects and the like. What the challenge that CERTA has now before them is they are going to have to figure out what the package of projects and hard assets are going to be before they take this to the bond market to actually issue the bonds. So we're probably going to see a pre-funding grant to determine what the demand and need is going to be, then the basically development of the package, and then the issuance of bonds or sale of bonds sometime probably in October, November, December time frame, which means earliest we can see this money being available would be probably January of 2016, And because it's bond funding, if I'm not mistaken, that money will be available for multiple years. So it's not a situation where if in 2016 you don't draw all of that money down, it disappears. It would disappear at some point in time.
But I guess in addition to that part of the question is the division of this bond money that you came up with, is it being accepted?
It is in
So-
play. Nobody has actually said, yes, we are going to utilize this. And Chad, I think you may be able to
Yeah.
address this much better in terms of Georgia Transportation Association.
There's a pool of money out there,
Mhm.
and the concern is how the state is proposed to divvy the money up actually works counterintuitive to the way it should work. So the state is using 100% of state funding to purchase assets. To transit systems, it's more advisable to leverage that money. So as opposed to buying a bus for $500,000 for CAT, give me the $500,000 and let me buy 4 buses by using other federal money. So that's one of the issues that we're facing. The other issue is how the funds actually appropriated. And so we're proposing a formula. As I said, Mike and I will be in Atlanta later this week working with the Toll Road Authority and Greta and pushing our approach in terms of how the funds are distributed throughout the state. There is some leeway and push by other members of the Georgia Transit Association. So right now we know we have most of the other urban communities on board. We don't have a stake yet, a feel from how we stand with the rural communities.
Okay, well, I just didn't know if a decision had been made on that.
No, but it's a work in progress, and it's absolutely our top priority to make certain that we can have access to the maximum number of dollars that we possibly can see out of this program.
Right. As that money sitting there, does it draw interest? They don't.
If there's any, what has happened in the past, if there is any kind of interest on it, James, the state takes it. See, and they use it in their general fund. Sometimes that's what happens. Okay. You got anything else?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And of course, here's the statement for the public hearing now. Ladies and gentlemen, this hearing is being held in compliance with state law relative to Chatham Area Transit Authority's proposed fiscal year 2015-2016 budget. Information packets showing the proposed budget are available at the front entrance of our building. A list is being passed around asking for the names and address of those present. The purpose of this is to document that public input was solicited for future audit purposes. We will start at the right side of the room and go row by row. If you wish to speak, please stand, state your name, address, and the name of the group or organization you represent, if any. We have staff available to help pass out any written material to the board members. We would ask that you be brief and concise in your remark, since we have a number of people that may want to speak, and we want everyone to have an equal chance to be heard. So I'll start right now on my left on the first row. Anyone on the first row would like to speak on this public hearing? Anyone on the first row? On the second row, anyone on the second row would like to speak at the public hearing that we have? Anyone on the second row? Okay, then I'll go over here. No, I see we got it in the orange over there. We have an employee, so that's won't be in the public hearing. All right, then, since we have anyone that wants to speak, I'll call for the closing of the hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next is the special presentations. On number 1, we have the retirement recognition proclamation for Frederick Gordon. And if Frederick would come, I'm going to read this. And Frederick, if you have any relatives or friends that you'd like to come, I'm going to go right here over so that when I read this, everyone here will be able to see me reading it, I guess. You want to introduce this lovely person with you?
You want to go home?
You gotta go home.
This is my wife, Arlene Gordon. We've been married for 47 years. But she's been my rock, and I love her.
Very good.
The Chatham Area Transit Authority Board proclamation in recognition of Frederick L. Flash Gordon. You remember him in the funny papers, of course, Flash Gordon. That's where he got the name from. Whereas it is befitting that we recognize employees who have provided loyal and dedicated service to Chatham County and the surrounding area. And in that regard, we salute with great pride Frederick L. Gordon, also known as Flash. And whereas Mr. Gordon has retired after accumulating almost 40 years of dedicated service to the Transportation and Operations Department with Savannah Transit Authority, now known as Chatham Area Transit Authority, CAT, Mr. Gordon began his employment as a bus operator on July the 16th, 1975, and was inducted into the CAT Safety Wall of Fame for his safe driving record. He was known for operating his bus superbly in a professional manner, and his appearance and attendance were above reproach. Other than scheduled time off, Mr. Gordon was always at work and willingly assisted wherever needed. And whereas Mr. Gordon excelled as a regular participant in the annual CAT bus radio since its inception locally in 1987. The bus rodeo is an annual event to challenge operators' driving knowledge and skills and maneuverability of a bus safety through a series of obstacles in a timely manner. Mr. Gordon participated in 28 CAT bus rodeos where he successfully maintained his winning position by accumulating 23 first-place winnings, 4 second-place winnings, and 1 third-place winning. As the winner, Mr. Gordon represented CAT at the International Bus Rodeo and won 5th place at the International Bus Rodeo held in Chicago, Illinois. This year, in honor of Mr. Gordon's zealous commitment to only the highest standards of public transportation and his many achievements during the bus rodeos, the first place trophy was named the Flash Gordon Award.
All right.
Be it resolved that Frederick L. Flash Gordon will be greatly missed by the management team, his co-workers, and passengers. Now, therefore, I, Pete Lakakis, Chairman, on behalf of the Chatham Area Transit Authority Board, do hereby extend our most sincere appreciation and best wishes to Frederick L. Flash Gordon for his dedicated and loyal service to the Chatham Area Transit Authority, and trust that he will enjoy the fruits of his labor. We wish him the best in a well-deserved retirement. In witness, therefore, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of Chatham Area Transit Authority, Chatham County, Georgia, to be affixed this 21st day of April 2015. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I may have known Flash longer than anybody else in this room, 40 years. And I personally witnessed his skill in operating buses at the international rodeos at several venues at APTA meetings over the years, and he is truly a Flash and a truly wonderful gentleman. I also would like to mention the fact that Arlene's mother was a longtime employee and dedicated employee of transit in Savannah at Savannah Transit Authority.
Thank you.
Now, what are you going to do with all those ropes you had for the rodeo?
I got them on the wall and they'll come in handy.
Priscilla?
I too would like to commend you. I have followed your career
Yes, ma'am.
for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And I too have observed you during many of the rodeos.
Yes.
And that's when they said Flash Gordon. I said, who's Flash? But anyway, you have made us very proud. And while you are retiring, I want to say to you, you will never be forgotten.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so very much for all that
Thank
you have
you.
done.
Would you like to make a statement now? We'd like to hear from you, Flash.
Sure be fast.
Well, I might stutter here a little bit, but like they said, I started in 1975, and I never thought I'd last this long. I thought it'd be a temporary job, and once I got into it, I loved it. And I'm gonna miss this place, and the driving, and the people I've met all over the community, black and white, Hispanic, you name it. I love them, and they sort of like me, I guess. But I'd like to thank everybody. Thanks for this award. It's deeply appreciated, and that's about all.
Do you have your honey-do list, darling?
Yeah.
Spreadsheet.
And Frederick, may you and your family be
Yes.
blessed by God for many good years in the future. And we thank you very much for your dedication, your loyalty, because you help a lot of people that need transportation in our community by providing that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And next on the agenda is the Frederick Flash Gordon Rodeo Award to be given to Lewis Givens.
Mr. Givens has already received the award, but I wanted to recognize him in front of everybody. Mr. Givens has been a bus operator with Chatham Area Transit for over 20 years. Mr. Givens won the Distinguished Bus Operator of the Year Award in 2013. He was also promoted as one of only 2 bus operator trainers in 2014. Mr. Givens is now the first recipient of the first place Flash Gordon Bus Rodeo Award for 2015. This award places him in an illustrious group of highly trained and skilled professional bus operators at Chatham Area Transit. Congratulations, Mr. Givens.
I'd like to say thank you to Almighty God for the victory. I'd also like to say thank you to Mr. Flash Gordon for retiring 2 weeks before the competition.
And Lewis, we thank you also on behalf of this board and the citizens and of course the riders and all for the good service that you have been given to those people that need transportation in our community. And we appreciate all the things that you have done, and may God also bless you and your family for many years in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, distinguished guests. Appreciate it. And I sincerely hope that I can go to Texas and represent Chatham County well, as Mr. Flash Gordon has over the years in this international bus competition.
You're here.
Thank you.
Old business, yes. Okay, Chief?
She's
Bring her in.
Oh, okay. She's here.
You won't have to do that because that's where old business is right there, the chief told you.
Hey, good morning. Good morning,
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, but I need to make a
you don't have to do that. You don't have to do it because it's on the regular agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, of the board and visitors and others, I'd like to welcome the Assistant Chief of the Savannah Chatham Metro Police Department, who's done an outstanding job, and on a number of occasions when we needed an interim chief, Chief Talbot did that and did an excellent job, and we can see since not only that, but in her position, she's helped the new Chief of Police, Chief Lumpkin, to learn a lot about our department, and she is well recognized in the community and has dedicated and been loyal to the citizens of our city and county. And so we welcome you to our meeting today, Chief.
Thank you, thank you. I certainly do appreciate that. And first, let me apologize for my tardiness in being here. I've been just so busy trying to deal with homicide suspects, and I had to balance whether I needed to deal with that versus show up here on time. And of course, you know what happened.
Glad you were late.
That's
fine. That's your priority. That's fine.
Absolutely. And so, a few months ago, the board asked that we take a look at whether or not the board would consider the erection of a monument in recognition of our fallen officers, or whether or not there were some other recommendations placed on the table, whether we wanted trees or some other means or some other way to identify and recognize those officers that had fallen in the line of duty. And so the board asked that the police department give input into a recommendation there, and that's the reason I'm here this morning. And we polled the officers, as well as we did a survey, an internal survey. And this morning, the person that actually oversaw that project is here with me, and it would be best if she presented to you the results of that survey, and that would be our PIO officer, Officer Unicia Baker, and she has the results with her, and I'm going to let her brief you on what she came up with as a result.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'll be before you very briefly, I promise. So as Assistant Chief Talbert stated, we did do an internal poll of the officers regarding a monument for our fallen officers throughout Chatham County. We gave them 4 design options. Design option A was to mount plaques on designated trees along Victory Drive that listed a memorial to the officers. Design option B was to place a plaque at the site of the fallen officer's death. The third option was to erect a single monument at the CAT Depot to include each fallen officer's name. And finally, design option 4 was to simply maintain the existing monument that sits across the street from police headquarters on Oglethorpe in the median. And we got a response from our officers. 155 people responded to the survey. The survey was posted for about 2 days. And about 18 of the respondents did indicate that they were not sworn officers. We were trying to focus only on the sworn officers. 110 of the respondents, which was 70.97%, responded favorably to design option D, which was to go ahead and maintain the existing monument on Oglethorpe. And the least favored option was to put monuments on designated trees along Victory Drive. So we only got about, of the 155 respondents, only 7 of those people, which was 4.52%, said that that was the option that they wanted. So we got an overwhelming response from those that did respond that they wanted to simply maintain the existing monument that is on Oglethorpe.
Okay. I'm sorry, and so in addition to that, a poll was done, internal poll in addition to the survey, and out of that, the commanding officers, which consist of the captains, the majors, the lieutenants, and supervisors, they're concerned with the option of placing markers where the officers fell. They felt that because there's so much scrutiny that goes on between officer and citizens, that those markers would become defaced at some point. Citizens that were, of course, opposed to police officers would do damage to the markers, would do ugly things, would actually mark them up, and it would be too cumbersome to try to maintain them. And so they did not want to impose that upon the board or anyone else to try to maintain that, in addition to the fact that it would be a very cumbersome task for them to actually identify where these fallen officers fell, because we're talking back from 1800s up to today. Right. And so they just felt like that was really, really a monumental task to undertake, and they did not want to take on that task. So presented with the three, of course, they understood that the monument at Overthorpe and Havisham is the main police memorial monument. All of the officers that have fallen thus far, name is posted on that monument. They did not understand why we were even entertaining, discussing anything else, and I did my best to try to explain to them that in addition to that monument, that this board really wanted to do something else for the fallen officers, felt like you guys should actually recognize them in a different way. And so these officers really, really felt compelled to just sort of stick with what we already have. If you so desire to do something further, then they would recommend option 2, which was the option that Eunicia just mentioned. And so, again, we did a poll prior to SurveyMonkey, and then SurveyMonkey went out to try to capture as much information as we could from all of the officers, and that did include civilian staff as well, even though our focus was primarily on sworn staff, and the results is what you just heard. Yes, ma'am.
Would you review what option 2 is? I can't remember them in the order.
Was that option 2 or the second place option?
The second place. Second
yes,
place?
second place.
The second place option was design option B, and design option B was to place a plaque at the exact side of the officer's desk.
That's out.
Yeah, they just felt like it was too cumbersome.
Yeah.
Didn't want to see, go right by and see someone
said
down.
Something about one they did agree on was what?
The first one
site?
is the memorial site. Yes.
Thank you. I quite agree with that. And to mention also, that ceremony is coming up on the May
yes,
what?
13th.
May 13th.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful ceremony.
It is, yes.
Priscilla.
Thank you. Chief Talbot, I just want to thank you for taking the time. I know that you need to get back to your other duties and what have you, and to you also. This has been a cumbersome, decision. Given the facts that you have given us today, 70.9% of the officers, the survey that was taken indicates to me that this is the route that we need to take. And we are grateful for the fact that, we will be remembering those who have fallen. We will never forget them. And so we just personally, I would like to suggest, as chairperson of the committee that was asked to, intercede about this, and the final decision was to go through the Chief Talbot and the police department. Now that she has given us the results of the request, I will yield to my comrade over there, Mrs. Stone, and let her make her remarks, and then I would like to make a motion.
Helen.
Thank you. I would like to thank you for your time and effort into this. I was the one that brought this forward because historically it was my understanding somewhere in the minutes of Chatham County that upon the completion of this building that they were going to do something for the officer that fell at this location. and I appreciate everything that you've done in looking into this. I still feel a twinge of responsibility in this regard, and since it's not clearly documented, I certainly do not go against anything that is not factual. But I do have one question, and that would be, out of the 155 people that responded, how many officers are at Metro? I mean, what percentage of the officers was the 155 that responded? Was it half? Was it 40%? Was it 60%?
Well, it's actually less than half of the officers. At the current, we have on board in the neighborhood of about 550 officers, and only that 150 that she captured actually responded to the survey.
But they had the opportunity?
Yes. But they did have the opportunity, but in addition to that, the officers were polled prior to the survey going out to try to capture as much information about, you know, their feelings on whether we should erect a monument or what we should do. And again, they responded to that prior to the survey going out, but we didn't get as many people to respond actually to the survey as we would have liked.
How did that differ from the results of the written results?
It was pretty much the same, Ms. Stone. The officers, they really feel a relationship with the monument at headquarters. We you know, had memorial services at that site for so many years. Goes back way before I even started on the department, and they really feel that connection and relationship to that monument. And to erect something somewhere else just wasn't going over that well.
Well, I'm a little disappointed that less than half responded. I will say that. That's a little disappointing to me. But I thank you for all of your time and your efforts in what you did. Thank you.
Mary?
I just want to thank you also, Chief. The three of us were the committee that was appointed by the board, and I think that, you know, we've agreed on one common theme, that is all or none. No special selection of a site for any one given officer. And of course, immediately, I think we all really kind of recognize it would be an awesome task to try to go back to the 1800s to identify the sites. Those places are probably not there anymore. Just for the benefit of those that are out there, I want you to recognize what we're saying here. So I thank you also for your efforts, and I reel back to the chair.
Thank you.
Chief, thanks again for coming. We know that, you know, a lot of things are going on with Savannah Chatham Metro Police Department, and of course, we thank you again because you have been an outstanding officer, even starting out as a private and then moving up to the assistant chief's position. And that's really great because we can look at your history and the things that you've done, because you really care about citizens and getting involved in a lot of community things too, not just being in an office at the police department on Oglethorpe and Havisham Street, but getting involved into the community and all, and listening to what the citizens are saying and what the department can do, and you explaining what's going on in the community. I've been to several of those meetings, and we thank you very much for doing this and all, and we pray that you will be blessed and taken care of in the future also, you and your family.
Well, thank you. I certainly do appreciate that. That's just me. I just feel compelled to do what I can do for this community. I live in this community as well, and I'm a part of it, and so I want to make it a safer place for me and my family just as much as for you. So thank you very much for that. And Ms. Stone, I will say, Chief Lumpkins would have been here this morning. He did participate and also overseeing, because you had requested. He did participate in that, but he had to go back to Athens this morning. He ended up with a subpoena, so he had to abide by that subpoena. So he's just out today, but he should be back if you have any additional questions. But that's as much as we could get out of that.
Priscilla?
I just want to say, as Sheriff, that this should be the final report. Again, we must continue to be transparent in everything that we do. We cannot be selective in what we would like. And I appreciate the report that has been given. I accept that report, and I hope that this board accepts it as well. And let us move forward together.
Okay, thanks again
Thank you
to
all.
both of you.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Chairman. Is it necessary to do a vote on this?
We need to.
Huh? No.
No.
So the matter is now finalized and closed.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because we heard this right here, and the officers I've attended, I've spoken at many of those particular memorial services over the years. Some probably about 12 different times I have I've been one of the speakers, and it really goes in detail, and they invite the members of the families that have passed away, the officers that have passed away. Okay, next we go to action items. The first one is the MV1s for paratransit services. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting the board approve the purchase of 8 MV1 vehicles to be used in our paratransit service. We brought the MV1s in for demonstration, had a demonstration for approximately 2 months. There are different type of vehicles than what we have traditionally used. So we had them in demonstration for our operators. We took them around, solicited comments from our users of paratransit. And at this point, we are requesting board approval to move forward with the purchase of 8 of the MV1s, wheelchair accessible vehicles we use in service for our paratransit operation.
Are these new?
Yes, sir.
They're following up the Florida contract?
Yes, sir.
Well, how much is that?
Total price of $279,588.
And this is a savings over some of the other buses that
Well, we have that coming up next. So the cutaways are about 100,000. So we're getting 2 of these for what it costs for one of the cutaway vehicles that we currently use. And we have about double the gas mileage.
They're built on a truck chassis, so they should last for
Yes.
a good long while. I move to approve.
Second. I have a motion on the floor and a second to purchase 8 of the MV1s for paratransit service. Any comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, the cutaway coaches for paratransit services. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting the board approve the purchase of 3 cutaway Goshen coaches. These are the ones we traditionally see with our paratransit operation. They say these are about 100,000 apiece. We purchased off the state of Georgia contract. So it's 3 at a cost of $301,965. And to give you some understanding, a number of our trips that we carry, there's only one wheelchair at a time. Then we have other trips where we carry multiple wheelchairs. So the notion is we want to use a smaller vehicle that's less expensive, more agile, to run those ones where we have one wheelchair, and then use the larger vehicles where we have multiple wheelchairs. These can carry 4 wheelchair securements at a time. So staff is requesting board approval for the purchase of 3 Goshen coaches. The cost of $301,965.
Need a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other comments? You said you have something? Okay. All in favor for the cutaway purchases, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The vote is successful.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Actually, Mr. Lee, tell me about the Freedom Bus or
Cat
ride.
Freedom.
Yeah, what is that? And how is that vehicle structured, or how
It is a minivan. So we looked into the whole concept of the big vehicle, small vehicle, smaller vehicles actually are much more efficient, so on and so forth. The problem you run into with the minivans is that there's only one minivan still that meets the Buy America criteria, and that's the Kia. And the Kia is not mass produced in a wheelchair accessible model. So we had to find another smaller vehicle that was wheelchair accessible that met the requirements of Buy America, where MV1s actually did that. So with our CAT Freedom program, we provide these wheelchair accessible vehicles under contract to Yellow Cab. And Yellow Cab provides two services for us, or actually three services. The first service they provide is service under our Guaranteed Ride Home program. So we launched the express routes to entice people to use express services or some of our previous services. Obviously, express doesn't run every hour. If you're at work and you need to get home to pick up a sick child or something like that, well, we guarantee you a ride home that is paid for by CAT. So if you use our services, you're a pass holder, you can pick up the phone and say, I'm at work, I'm stuck, I need to get to the school, I need to get here. And the Yellow Cab will use that, will provide that service. We also use them for overflow situations in our taxi, in our paratransit services. So some of the things that we looked at in the evening time, where we have less people who use the buses at night, but we had to keep staff on the road. Now we bring the staff in earlier, and those trips are provided by Yellow Cab. And the third one is the wheelchair accessible taxi. So under our paratransit services, you have to schedule a day in advance, you have to meet qualifications, so on and so forth. Under the wheelchair accessible, it's much less stringent, and you can simply pick up the phone and call for one of the wheelchair accessible taxis to pick you up. And the way the fare works on that, it's a meter rate in which we pay, the customer pays half of the meter rate, and then the other half is paid for by the city of Savannah. It also works with people who are coming into town, flying into the airport, things of that nature, to help improve transportation. No, you can't do it that way.
Oh, sorry.
Shake.
Never mind.
Wayne, you got a question?
Yeah, no, actually it's a compliment. I was just gonna say, prior to Dr. Reese, we didn't have any wheelchair accessible taxis in Savannah. There was one that was purchased by Yellow Cab with private money, and it had passed the threshold for being able to operate. So I commend you on, making that, bringing that to fruition.
And so we are getting some usage out of the paratransit program with the wheelchair accessible. So.
Anything else, Mary? Okay, let's go on support vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting the board approve the purchase of 3 sedans and 5 utility vehicles for service and support vehicles. These vehicles will come to a total of $172,035. These vehicles will replace some of our existing fleet, 1995 vehicle, 1999, several of our 2003s with 200,000 to 300,000 miles on them. And so requesting board approval to replace some of the current vehicles.
So everybody understands, explain what the support vehicles are.
Support vehicles are our shop truck that is equipped with the equipment on the back. Anytime we have a bus that fails, the shop personnel goes out in the truck to replace it. We have relief vehicles for our operators because they come to work at Gwinnett Street, but they have to go to work, get on their bus in other parts of the city, so they use the vehicle to transport them. They are the service trucks for our maintenance people who are out cleaning routes, bus stops, so on and so forth. So those are the support vehicles.
Okay, need a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other comments?
Just a question.
Yes.
I don't know the sum total, Terry, of the 3 items we just approved. What is that coming out of operating budget?
Capital.
Capital budget?
Yes, capital budget.
We have the money for that?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Okay. All in favor of the purchase of the support vehicle signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, the IFB for maintenance, materials, and supplies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting a board approval to issue 3 invitations for bids for material and supplies related to lubricants, oil, other fluids, nuts, bolts, miscellaneous hardware, and towing services. These will be separate invitation for bids. They're not RFPs, so they are a sealed bid, price-oriented approach in the areas, and these will be multi-year procurements. And so we're requesting approval to issue the bids in those areas.
How they advertise it?
We'll advertise them through newspaper, on board, online, and then we have a list of suppliers that currently use it that we'll notify. But this is a bid and not an RFP, so the evaluation criteria is solely that of price.
Need a motion?
So move for approval.
I have a motion on the floor and a second for the IFB supplies. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next on the list is insurance renewal for fleet, property, and workman's compensation. And we have some people, we have some guests here who are representing the insurance company. So if you come forward, identify yourself, and give us some information, please. Cut those lights a little bit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the coastal regional thing is next in our book. Is that not going to be?
No, that's the next one is.
By way of introduction, I guess.
Go ahead, Cindy Robinette.
I'm Cindy Robinette with Seacrest Partners, Managing Director of our Property and Casualty practice. And I have with me Jenny Osaka. She serves as the Senior Account Executive on the Chatham Area Transit account. And we're here today to talk about the property and casualty insurance renewal, which comes up for renewal on May 15th. Some reference was made a bit earlier on the employee benefits, the life and health. That's not what we're here to present today. That comes up a bit later, and we'll have a team back to talk about that closer to the renewal. So we'll walk through the presentation, but I encourage you, if you have any questions as we go through, please feel free to interject, and we'll try to be brief as well. Okay. Just real quickly, an overall update of the property and casualty market in general. We fortunately have good news. There have been several years of good results overall with property casualty insurance, and that's largely we haven't had the catastrophes that we've seen in the past. So the market is very stable, and that translates into good news for buyers because we're seeing stable pricing and in some cases decreasing rates. The CAT account has some complexity just based on the exposures with a large fleet and transit, but nonetheless we have some good news to report today. The first being the property insurance, which also renews in May. For CAT's renewal, we did go out to multiple insurance markets to get competing bids on the property. The incumbent market is named Axis, and they have actually come back with a close to a 10% rate reduction on the property, and that's better than any of the other results we had seen. If you want to move to the next slide, we've got the pricing here. If you can see that, last year we were at around $109,000, and the renewal coming in at $98,800, and there's been no change in the deductible structure. We've added property here and there, but overall looking at close to a 10% decrease. And you see on that slide the different markets that we approached. You'll notice that some of them could only offer a certain level of limits. We have close to $20 million in values, so Axis is able to provide the entire protection for all of the limits place for the property. So our recommendation is to renew with Access. That's okay, good, that you're right. The next piece that's the larger piece is the general and auto liability. Again, the market is favorable. Auto liability is still a tough line of coverage and remains stable with some increasing rates due to medical inflation. We did approach multiple underwriters on the general liability and the auto as well. We have some challenges with getting additional insurance companies to offer bids from the standpoint of most insurers require 3 to 5 years minimum of what's called currently valued loss data. We only have several years because the data prior is housed at Veolia, and we aren't able to access that. The good news is the incumbent underwriters did offer a good renewal for us.
One more?
No, that's there you go. On the general liability, just under $10,000, that renewal was flat. We didn't get a change in premium there. On the auto, that's where the largest amount of the premium dollars flow. And we had a barely 1% increase on the auto, which we think is a good result based on the number of vehicles and the exposures. So that's going up just a touch. We did ask the insurance carrier RLI to give us some options to lower the premium by virtue of higher deductibles. Right now, the program for the auto has a $25,000 per accident deductible. So we looked, what if we increase that to $50,000 per accident or $100,000? And you can see on the second line the price decreases that might be available should CAT elect a higher deductible. When we stratify the losses into those different deductible categories, we still found that your best overall result that presents the most stability and the lowest risk was the $25,000 deductible. But we do have those options for review.
Yeah, and when we talk about 50 or 100,000, our budget is tight now, and certainly having to put out that kind of money puts us somewhat in a strain, as Chad can tell you, in a situation like that. So it's with their recommendation to stay with the 25,000, that's better at this particular time, as opposed to putting a more of a burden on our organization.
Thank you. I'll agree. The next line of coverage is workers' compensation. We had some good news in this line as well. The market is considered stable, but again, we went out to bid with multiple insurance companies, and the response was we need more loss data. We only had several years of loss data, but we also got feedback that the program was very competitive just in looking at the information. The loss experience has been very favorable. CAT has an experience modification rate of 0.79, which average is 1.0, so we're better than average from a loss and attribute to our safety standards. The good news is Amerisure, who is the incumbent underwriter, offered a decrease of 19.2% over the prior year. So we were real pleased with the results. And on the next page, you'll see the expiring premium at $263,000 and 2015 renewal at $212,000. So we were real pleased with this renewal. There is a deductible under the program of $300,000. So these are the fixed costs you're seeing here, and the losses are above that. But again, a good result from the workers' compensation.
Hold on just a minute. Bill?
Sir.
But that deductible was the same for both?
Same as last year.
Okay.
Yes, the good question. Same as last year. The deductible didn't change. It's $300,000 on a per accident basis and $650,000 in the aggregate for the year.
Okay, thank you.
This, I apologize, a little difficult to see, but basically it's a summary, and it's in the handout. You've got a green handout if you care to look at it more closely, of the different programs that renew May 15th. The property, general liability, commercial auto, and workers' compensation, and those are the recommendations going forward for the renewal. It results in about a 5.5% overall decrease from what was paid last year.
That's excellent. Excellent.
Any questions?
I misunderstand. I thought earlier it was stated it was 5% increase.
Health insurance.
Health insurance, yeah, good question. We're bringing you good news, but you know, unfortunately it doesn't quite offset each other because the health insurance is quite a bit larger item than the property casualty.
I wanna work on that health insurance.
And the next, just a couple of other items that we have wanted to present for consideration. You may all be familiar in the news with cyber liability, privacy security liability, where you have issues of breaches of personal financial information, health information. We are proposing privacy and security liability insurance coverage, which would respond to litigation. It would also respond in the event of having to provide notification of a privacy breach and offer credit monitoring. The limit of liability, $1 million, and a policy deductible of $10,000 and an annual premium of $6,100. We do secure credit card information from passengers, and we also have employee health information as well on file. So we wanted to make that recommendation for consideration. And then the other two areas, the auto liability and the general liability has $1 million limit, which has been a decision in the past. We always recommend each year you relook at the limits. Is that enough? Do you want to look at higher limits? So we do have the ability to bring back quotes for additional limits should you want to go in that direction. It would be additional cost, but we're happy to offer those proposals as well. And then crime employee dishonesty coverage is something that's not presently placed by Seacrest, and another property casualty coverage we recommend for consideration.
Mary? Cindy, catastrophic accidents where a family of 3 are riding in a car and they're all killed. What coverage do we have?
We have $1 million.
Total?
Total.
Per person, per passenger?
Per accident.
Per accident, not per passenger?
That's right.
And for an umbrella in that, what is the additional premium for that particular?
Yeah, we didn't go out and secure quotes. We have looked at it in the past. We're happy to come back and bring some quotes. It's going to be in the hundreds of thousands.
You mean the premium could be that much?
Could be, because you're paying 600 or so thousand on the auto and general liability. So for an additional, whether you want an additional $1 million or $5 per million, we could price it out by $1 million and bring that back to the board for consideration.
And the reason why I'm saying that, if you have a bus, and we pray that this never happens, but there is a very catastrophic bus accident, and you've got several people, maybe you lose all of the passengers' lives in that situation.
Mr. Chairman, I should mention that although you obviously want to have a source available to compensate people who suffer losses as a result of accidents that CAT may have liability for or could have liability for, you are cloaked with sovereign immunity. So
close to what, sir?
Cloaked with
sovereign immunity.
Okay, thank you.
And our policy,
you would be immune to.
That's fine.
We only waive that up to our policy limit. So if we have an insurance policy that's $1 million, then that is the most we can be sued for. If we go to 10 million, we can be sued up to 10. So.
Wayne?
Yeah, I just had a question. I know we said that we were operating under a tight budget and we were considering other deductibles, $75,000 deductible. And then on the workers' comp, we were talking about a $300,000 deductible?
$300,000 deductible.
If I may, and Terry, you can step in. One of the things that we have not done in the past is budgeted for contingencies. So if we got a large deductible like that, that's something that we paid and it came on our report at the end of the year. And this year's budget, the reason you see that 7-8% increase is because we've taken the position to budget for contingencies. With this in mind, that if we have one of these catastrophic type situations, we have a restricted account where we will grow the money in that over time. So we are in effect creating a internal insurance approach to handle those deductibles as opposed to the way we've historically done it.
It just seemed like a very high deductible, but
It is, and it's due to what Cindy was mentioning about the number of years data we have. And basically, we do pay that month to month as a claim incurs medical costs. We'll pay the reserve on the non-medical and then pay the medical as it occurs. So we don't pay $300 at one time, but that's the limit per case.
And workers' compensation is somewhat of a predictable exposure looking back historically going forward. And if you were to go out to purchase insurance on a fully insured basis as opposed to the deductible, you're going to be paying significantly more over time. So the $300,000 is a reasonable limit based on your loss expectancy.
well, you said there was an absence of data because part of it's owned by Veolia. So as years go by and the less claims we get filed, hopefully we could look at
Certainly, you could look at lowering that, or you could look at increasing it if your experience continues to be favorable and save on insurance premium.
Okay, any other questions?
I just think it's a shame Veolia
Is
won't
that
give us that
everything?
information.
That's everything, yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to work with Chatham Area Transit and handle the insurance needs.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. And so everybody know this. Seacrest is a very good company, and you've got a lot of experienced people in there. And for them going out in the market, looking for, getting us a better rate, you see, that's really good because instead of them just staying as it is, or just getting a little bit more, going out to save us money is really a good thing, and we thank Seacrest for that also.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, staff
Yes.
is requesting board approval to buy the recommended insurance program was presented with Seacrest Partners.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions on this? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next is the core MPO MOU.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting the board approval the execution of a memorandum of understanding between Chatham Area Transit Authority, Coastal Regional Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. The MPO is a federally mandated and federally funded transportation policymaking organization. It's made up in this area for both the Chatham and Effingham County areas. We're representatives from all the local governments and the governmental transportation authorities. As you'll notice in more depth in this MPO, that CAT will retain 2 seats on the MPO board of directors. There is a new formula that the MPO approved, MPO board approved to go out to all of the represented government agencies. Based upon the formula, CAT's annual cost to MPO will be $10,250. And the memo is in the packet along with the background information. And we also have Mark Wilkes here from the MPO who can entertain any specific questions you may have.
Okay, any questions? And I tell you, Mark is one of the top people over at MPC and MPO and CORE and does a really good job. He's worked hard, and we can see a lot of successful things that have happened because of Mark's participation and how he works on different projects for the MPC, MPO, and CORE, all of those, and of course CORE is part of the MPO. So if you have any questions that you would like him, or you want to say anything about it right now, Mark?
It's a simple agreement. Basically what it says is that we, the NPO staff, do all the transportation planning work that's required to keep the federal monies flowing here. All the other signatories, of which CAT is one, basically agree to cooperate with us while we do that. The money part is primarily to manage federal grants that pay for the process. In the old days, GDOT used to pick up a lot of the local match. That's not the case now, so we're needing to get a minimum 20% match on most of our grants these days, and that's the 10,250 figure that Dr. Reese referred to. So very simple agreement. Everybody has their own signature page at the back, and we're trying to get this wrapped up this fiscal year, which would be June, so that we can move ahead.
And if I may add to Mark's comments, we also do transportation planning work outside of that which is structured. As you know, the work that Rob, Greg, and Cutter are doing through us are doing under agreement with MPO as well.
Question. Go ahead, Ellen. Excuse me, Mary.
Chad, the $10,000 that we have to expend for this, is just us, or does Effingham share some of that? Or?
There's a breakdown, should be a breakdown in your packet of how it goes, the formula allocations.
Our share.
That's our share.
That's our share, okay, thank you.
Page 27.
Bill?
And didn't I read that our share is less this time around than it was before?
We've been paying about 16,000.
Right.
But that number also goes into place with some of the other funding allocations. So it will be somewhat consistent. Ours is a floor of what we're looking at. So as we go to the MPO for more studies to be done and things of that nature, it may rise because we'll use federal planning dollars and we'll match those federal planning dollars at a 10 or either 20% match.
Okay. And I think you indicated that we had 2 representatives?
Yes.
And how does that work?
They are specified here. It's the CAT board chairman or designee or the executive director and designee.
Okay. And we've been going there, Chad and I been going to all those meetings, MPO. In fact, we're having one, I think it's on the 29th of this month. And we've been able to, give information to all the participants, but also for us to get the MPO people the staff people to really help us, because we're looking at those fundings and other things that we need, and transportation is a very important part of the MPO, because the MPO, as Mark will tell you, handles all the road projects that for us and the other cities and the ones in the surrounding areas, right, Mark?
That's right.
Well, I made a motion. Before you do that, please, if you allow me, yes, ask a question. How does this relate to the information that I sent to you from the Coastal Regional Planning Commission that we have? I sit on that board and I represent the Chatham County. The questions that were asked, I could not answer them because I had no knowledge of what had taken place here as far as Chatham Area Transit. So could you clear that up for me?
Yes, ma'am. We had, I got the information. We reached out to them. There's a second agreement in place with the Coastal Regional Commission.
Yes.
And that is for services that are provided in the rural part of the county.
Okay.
And we were awaiting a contract from them in order to pay the invoice.
Okay, so, but that's not.
That's not, that's a
That's a
issue.
separate thing
Yes, ma'am.
altogether. That's what
But
I
I think
needed
we
to-
have addressed that correctly.
We had
Okay.
a meeting with them yesterday, and we're working toward getting that agreement in place.
Okay.
And once we do that, we can move forward with, the billings and making the payments based on the agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing we want to make sure, so it came out, when I got a call here a while back, and I discussed it with Chad, is no agreement had been signed with the former director over there.
Right.
You know, in that, and
Yes.
started providing some service, and some of the service that Cat didn't know anything about.
Yes, sir, there's
And so that situation, that director's no longer there, but this situation is, I mean, it could run up into a substantial amount of money, but that was not authorized by Cat nor myself.
Well, the only reason why I just need clarification, and as well, because I CC'd, Mrs. Osborne, I think I sent one to, who was it? Oh yeah, the mayor also sits on this board, and, she was not aware of what was taking place. So in order for us to be clarified on what needs to be done, please keep me in the loop as the official representative
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Chatham County, as well as a part of CAT. I need to be aware so that I won't be looking stupid when stuff come up.
We'll take care of that. The big issue, as soon as they've got to get us a contract, because as we told them, we're not gonna pay a bill.
I understand. I just need to know where we are, what steps are being taken, you know, so that I can effectively, you know, respond. Thank you.
Wayne?
This is a budgeted line item. It's paid for out of
Yes.
local funds.
Yes.
Second, Helen's motion.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor for the core project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, Mark, thank you very much. We appreciate all the work that you do, and also with Tom, you know, being the director and the other staff members, because it makes a big difference to help us in a number of projects, especially on transportation, because that with all of that, a lot of things on transportation can get really involved, and we really don't have a lot of staff here to handle those, and the MPO handles it for us through this project. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to talk about the ridership. Ridership was relatively flat, down 0.06 of 1% for the month. The productivity remained constant. The on-time performance was up. The number of complaints were down. Accidents were down. Farebox recovery was down 4%, but you should also see the corresponding increase in agency revenue. On the paratransit side, ridership was up 10%. Productivity was down slightly, as well as the on-time performance from 93 to 92%. The complaints were up. Farebox, we did have one accident in the area of paratransit during the month, and the farebox remained consistent. Of note, we're still up 4%, 4% on all services year to date. As it relates to the functional assessments, we conducted 19 interviews during the month, and it's important to note that these are new applicants each month that are coming in, and our reassessment of the current ones takes place starting in April. So these are new applicants. There are 19 that were received. We referred 6 referred to functional assessments. Of that 6 that were referred, 4 did not pass, i.e. making them subsequently not eligible for paratransit services. We do have 1 appeal set from the first course in February. There's one, as it relates to APTA, Nick Hemholt submitted a paper and a presentation to be held at the 2015 Multimodal Operations Planning for Transit for Tourism. His paper was selected, and he'll be giving a presentation at the National Forum on Transit for Tourism. And I have Sandy here with one other bit of long-awaited item for our Dr. Priscilla D. Thomas Library.
That's much better.
Mr. Chairman.
You like that?
That one does look
You
like
like that one, George?
I made absolutely sure, because anytime we have somebody's portrait or picture, we wanted to make sure it looks like them and not somebody else.
Not
And this
abstract.
looks like Priscilla. The other picture was somebody from an alien, an alien world.
Thank you so very much.
You are,
I have another meeting.
oh, okay. All right, listen, just listen to this a minute, since he's finished his report too. I want to thank all of the board members, because what has occurred, the service has gotten better. I've had a lot of comments from people over there. Once in a while, we do get a complaint. Sometimes something, maybe a bus is late or something, but the safety program, all the things that our staff is doing under the direction of our executive director, which Chad is doing, is really, really good. And we can look, you've heard these figures before. In the year 2000, we had 16,000 people in Chatham County, that's all the cities in Chatham County, who didn't have transportation. They didn't have it from a loved one, a neighbor, or a friend that could help them in that. In 2010, we had 22,000 there. But the census has gone up. The year 2014, it went up to 24,000. And that's 24,000 people in our cities and county do not have transportation. And this is a valuable part of their life, so that they can go to the doctor, they can go to shop, to get their food. They can go and, hopefully they can get a ride to go to their work. And so it really makes a difference in a lot of people's lives, and your participations, what y'all are doing, is commendable, and that's really terrific that we can do what we can, and we keep going on so that we can get that funding with what Mike's doing and Chad is doing, and hopefully the distribution will help us and make it better for us.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I gotta
You go ahead.
go to another meeting. I was just interviewed by Suzanne Donovan from Step Up, and we talked about experiences of our clients. And I remember going through the simulation myself, and the biggest problem those families had in the simulation was transportation. So I agree with everything you just said. Please excuse me.
Bill?
Yeah, I just want to mention that that I've gone to a lot of the community indicators meetings that have been held. Primarily the county is behind this, and they're looking at issues like healthcare and transportation, the economy, and that sort of thing. And I will say that I'm always very affirmed by the very positive comments. We hear from people who are there who talk about CAT and how important it is, and how good the service is, and it's a system that people are really very proud of, and they feel as though it's a really important aspect of our community. Now, there are some suggestions of improvements and that sort of thing, but overall, when they go to list the things that you think are really good about this community, CAT is always one of the first 3 or 4 that get mentioned. So I think that should encourage all of us in what we're doing, and I know that we don't often get really positive feedback, but I thought I'd mention that.
Well, in the future, if we continue like we're going right now, to hopefully get that money, that's coming out of that funding, and continue to make those contacts with Washington and whatever else we need on a statewide level, and appreciate y'all's participation and caring about the citizens in our community, because they're a lot of their lives really depend, on transportation for them to have somewhat of a normal situation. Okay. Okay, Wayne.
Yeah, just one quick question. On the functional assessment, you said there's been one appeal?
One
So
appeal.
that appeal now goes on to the 3-member panel?
3-member, 5-member appeal committee. 5-member appeal committee.
Okay. And then once their decision is made?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to item 8, safety and training update. Anything new?
Mr. Chairman, the safety and training update is in your packet, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions on safety and training? And that's really important because, we've got good bus drivers and we want to make sure that they're safe and our passengers are safe, and that's the reason why we have that safety and training update. Next, service and delivery update.
The service and delivery report is in your packet. I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions on service and delivery? Next item, systems development update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The system development packet is in your report. I'll entertain any questions you may have on that.
Any questions? And of course, the last, and Eric, you have something on that?
Just a quick compliment. Thank you so much for Valerie being on the Interagency Diversity Committee. She does an excellent job on that. So we really appreciate that.
And the next is the financial update.
The financial update is on your desk there. It's important to note, the most important thing about probably financial update is that at this point we're roughly about $70,000 to the good on our budget, and it's important that right now we're currently projected to finish this budget year out under budget with a reserve, taking our line of credit down from $7 million to $4 million.
This is a first.
Yes.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
So we're still on track with that. Barring any last minute hiccups, we'll probably have the most successful financial year we had in a decade.
And it's best run now, even though we've had some negatives, some anyway, because of our director, the staff that he has, this board doing the things that's necessary to make sure it runs properly, and all have made a big difference. So all of you can be very proud of what you're doing, and we're going to see a lot of good things happening in the future. And especially we thank Mike again, who's been our lobbyist and has done an excellent job, and in that making the right contacts so that it helps us in our operation also.
Ditto to everybody. It's a fantastic job.
Okay.
And that concludes
And new business, any?
I have some new business. Mr. Chairman and Executive Director, the Association of County Commissioners just had their conference over across the river. And I was given some feedback on Chatham area transit. And one was, please, some of the boat operators, they said, were not very friendly. And I would like to improve on that if at all possible. These are some people, this is the first time they've been here. And I think that we have such, those are beautiful boats.
Yes.
And we have an opportunity, but they said they were rough, and I'm sure it was trying to maneuver so many people at one time. Also, they would like, and I don't know where, because I've talked to you about this last year, and maybe I dropped the ball, but to see what we can do to have maybe an additional boat or something. The lines were very long. I used it going from one of the meetings to one of the dinners on this side, and it was a little bit arduous to get on the boat and get over here. Now, going back was a little bit different, but I guess at mealtime, everybody wants to come over and, like the cattle, want to come over and feed. So they were all loading them up on the buses, on the boats, and so I know it's a challenge. I want to work with you.
Yes, ma'am.
But I told them that I would bring back the concerns to this board.
And what I want you to do is immediately have contact, you or the staff people, with those ferry operators.
Yes, sir.
And let's have a good conversations with them so that they understand that, you know why Wells Fargo is one of the biggest banks in this country? And if you go in any Wells Fargo bank, it's got it up on the wall there. One thing that really the successful courtesy. That's on there, and that that situation that Wells Fargo, the founder of Wells Fargo, put up, and is continued by the people that run Wells Fargo and with their employees, and that makes a big difference. And it's the same thing. I know sometimes people have, something negative going on and all, but let's don't bring that to work, and if there's something that we can do to help out, but we want our people to be courteous too, so we want that addressed, right away. And the other thing too, let's make sure we can talk to the people over at the Trade Center, and when we know that we've got quite a few people here attending, let's make sure that we've got all 3 boats in operation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I want to thank Helen for that, because I too received some, comments for about at least 6 people that had some problems.
Okay.
And,
We need to do better.
and we need to do better, and, they will be coming back and forth, and certainly we do not want to lose, ACCG coming here.
a lot of revenue.
But just, hey, Ellen, you can just let them know. We want them to know, boy, we got some sweet talking people now.
I'll tell them that.
Okay, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming. And
congratulations. Yeah, that's great.